Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cowboys in the Osage, Cowgirls edition this time. I'm your host, Cody. I got my co-host over here, as always, rodeo historian, Jimbo Snively. Hey, Jimbo, how's it going?
Oh, Cody boy, it's just another great day in the Osage. You know, we've got a real special guest tonight. You know, Pawhuska is known as the steer roping capital of the world, but we've actually got one of the best barrel racers in the United States right here in Pawhuska. We all watched her at the national finals last year, and she didn't just make them. She won over $50,000, placed in 3 rounds and the average. And she's right in the middle of them again this year. She's just come off a big win at San Angelo. She won 3rd at San Antonio. She's only been to 2 rodeos this year, and she's sitting 3rd in the world, if you can believe that. And if that's not bragging it strong enough, why, she's also a nurse practitioner and working on her PhD. So what do you think about that? We don't get that in here every day.
This is one of the most impressive people we've ever had on the podcast here, Jimbo. We're real excited.
Yes, we'd just like to welcome Miss Wenda Johnson to the show.
Well, thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to spending a little time and visiting about this great area and what we all love the most.
The Western way of life. That's what we love the most here, Jimbo.
That's right.
But we're pretty partial to the rodeo side of it, too.
Sure,
we're pretty.
Sure. We favor that a little bit.
We lean real heavy on that side right here at the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum. Wenda, where did you first grow up before you moved up here to this country?
So I'm originally from Arizona, born and raised, and we've previously were in Texas prior to moving here to Oklahoma.
That's where you grew up, Arizona, from a young girl?
Yes, Arizona. So I like the warm weather and lots of swimming horses, anything to do with warm weather, I love to do.
What did you think back in February when it got 20 below or whatever it was?
That's pushing my limit.
Yeah. You want to move back then?
I told my husband, we might need to be snowbirds someday.
Yeah, it got pretty bad around here this winter for a few days. World record freezes around here, right. Jimbo. Never, no one's ever seen anything like it.
No, and hope we don't see it again.
Hope we never do.
I third that.
So you grew up in Arizona. Did you grow up riding horses there? Absolutely.
I grew up on a horse every day, all day. I'm one of 6 children and the 3 girls, so myself and 2 sisters, we spent a lot of time horseback, a lot of great memories, and did all sorts of interesting things at a very young age.
What all kinds of things would y'all do horseback out there?
I would say probably my favorite memory, I was about 5 years old. We had these ponies. And, in Arizona it doesn't rain much, but, when it would rain occasionally. And it seemed like we started this one day. It was a rainy day, and we wanted our ponies to go fast. So my older sister, who was 2 years older than me at the time, had the great idea to drag a tarp behind our ponies so they would run faster. And we happen to live next to a canal bank, so it usually is really too hard to run on or anything. But when it was raining, it was a little softer, so we thought, let's grab that tarp and see how fast these ponies can run. And we sure enough did. I'd actually get in front of her. I was 5 years old, a little younger. She'd reach down and grab that tarp, and her little pony'd get kind of worried and scared and start running, and then my pony would see it too, and they'd just get nose to nose wide open, and she'd drop it, and we'd get them stopped, turn around, and do it again. And we did that for several years. Anytime it rained, that became our little tradition. Hey, it's raining, let's go drag the tarp on the ponies.
That's how you learned how to ride those fast horses, didn't it?
It's definitely played, yes, it played a part in, we rode bareback every day and swam horses bareback. So, we'd be wet, the horses wet, and we'd run through the barrels bareback when they were wet. And we used to show sheen the horses and play King of the Mountain on a horse, push each other off, so you had to get pretty sticky to be the king of the mountain on the horse.
I got show sheen on my rope a few times, Jimbo, and that booger was so slick you couldn't hardly even throw it without your loop closing up. So think about Armor All times 10, and they were putting that on their horse's back, trying to stay on there.
Well, you could pretty much ride the year round then out in Arizona. I guess it might have got pretty hot at times, but it sure didn't get too cold to ride, did it?
Absolutely. We did ride year round, and in the summer when it was hot, we just rode at night. So we did a lot of, we called it midnight riding. We'd ride all night. Yeah, I grew up in the city, so we had a little farm that was grandfathered in, so I feel like I had the best of both worlds. I had the small country feel. We had a little boarding facility, so kind of a close-knit group of friends, and then, but yet the conveniences of the city. So had the best of both worlds, but that meant any riding out that we did was through the city, through the streets. We used to ride through the Taco Bell drive-through on our horses. So we would just travel all through town. I think one night we went 20 miles, round trip, and so we'd spend a lot of those summer nights out riding horses. So it was a really great time and a lot of good memories.
What was your first horse's name that you can remember?
So we had a little pony, and his name was or it was a little mare, Bonnie was her name. And this little pony was pretty special. My mom actually would keep her close to the backyard and kind of kept her on a leash. Now that I think about it, it's kind of an interesting thing, but had her on this kind of leash, but that she was really close because our other horses were in the corral that was a little further away. And that pony was great because my mom's got a lot of great qualities, but she was not the best cook. And I know a couple times I snuck my food out to her and she ate it, and then it made it look like I ate my food, but good old Bonnie took care of it for me. So I remember that as such a young, small child, that she was just gentle and easy to be around, and then she ate the food that I didn't like.
I noticed there are a lot of good kid horses that are mares for some reason. I don't know, do they mother some of these kids? Because some of them don't even like an adult man, but they really put up with anything that a little girl or a little boy will throw their way sometimes. Have you ever noticed anything like that?
Yeah, I think so, and I think there's true good kid horses. They have a natural gift and maybe a sense that they're safe or gentle around a kiddo, and it's a neat thing. That's what's great about horses. Few
and far between, though.
Few and far between.
Hard to find.
So did you do the kid rodeo thing growing up? Or?
So we actually did the gymkhana. So out here it's play days. We did associations called gymkhanas, much like the play days, but they had more events. So we would pick from 20 events. Barrels and poles was always usually one of them, but they had other additional speed events. And then I junior rodeoed, high school rodeoed, college rodeoed.
Did you ever do any roping?
A little bit. My mom tried to get us some lessons, and really our horses weren't good enough to be a good rope horse. They were all runaways, and so they would definitely not rate a steer. So even if we tried, we would have definitely missed because our horses wouldn't stop.
Right.
Sometimes that makes you get it out of your hand and a little faster, though, Jimbo.
Yeah,
when you got one of them horses that won't rate. That's when I learned to start roping kind of a little bit faster, going to them when I had a horse that didn't see the steers in the arena whatsoever.
Right.
So you junior rodeoed, you high school rodeoed, you college rodeoed. What was your record in the junior rodeos? Did you win a lot of year ends, or?
So I didn't do a lot of the junior rodeos, mainly through, I high school rodeoed every year.
Yeah, let's jump straight to high school rodeo.
Yeah, so I'm actually a pole bender. I love to run poles. I did okay in the barrels. I think I ended up 6th one year, and, enough to go to they have the, out in Fallon, Nevada, they had it was like the secondary finals for the 5th through 10th place. So I went to Fallon, Nevada, all for, I think actually the first 2 years, did pretty good out there in the barrels and poles. And then my junior and senior year won the state pole bending championship, and went to nationals both years.
What about your college career?
So I ended up, college rodeo 2 years, and I ended up 3rd overall in the year-end standings. And at that time, they still only took top 2 to college, so I never went to the college finals. But had a great time, and it was a good experience and a lot of great people, and enjoyed the friends and connections that we made.
Are there any other standouts from your college rodeo team?
So I actually wasn't on a team. I rodeoed as an independent through kind of a local college where I grew up. So it was, I didn't have maybe the college rodeo experience because I didn't have a team and practice and that type of thing. And, still busy. I barrel raced quite a bit. I also quarter horse showed, went to the World Show every year, went to the Youth World Show, the Open World Show, have a AQHA world title, am in the pole bending. So I barrel raced enough and went to the big barrel races that I kind of just squoze in everything. So
I knew that was a word. My wife tells me that squoze is not a word. But that is a word when you can barely fit something in between two things. You squoze
it in. If she says it's a word, I'll take her word for it.
And she's going to be pretty much a doctor.
Yeah, I know.
Squoze is a word.
Yes.
That's one. Sorry to get off subject a little bit, but
well, when did you really get serious about barrel racing? You kind of put off your career a little bit, didn't you, for your schooling and stuff?
So an interesting fact about myself, I always just loved to ride horses. So the competitive side didn't necessarily drive me. Now, I love to travel, I love to meet people, and I love to ride horses. But, win, lose, or draw didn't drive me. I mean, there would be times, I'd go to the World Show or wherever, catch a barrel and kind of just shrug it off and say, well, maybe next time, So I wasn't really a real competitive in that fact or in that aspect of I have to go do this. And so whether it was good or bad, I'm not sure, but what it did is help develop kind of my love for the horse and then the development side of the horse. And so all growing up, I enjoyed having my horse walk in the arena, or if I asked him to stop, I wanted him to stop. So I enjoyed more the development side of it. And so after I college rodeoed, my mare that I trained, she's the one that I high school rodeoed, college rodeoed on, but I retired her, and then I had got married and kind of moved away, and still rode, married a rancher, so we got to ride every day and move cows, and I really enjoy that and being a part of that lifestyle. But the competitive side didn't really drive me, so I had some horses I probably could have ran barrels on, but didn't go enter in anything. I actually hadn't competed. I'd been to a couple small stuff here and there, but hadn't actually been to anything big for about 10 years when I originally got on the older horse that I ride, Flash, the black horse. And so it'd literally been 10 years since I rode at a high level, stepped on him and stepped right back into it, and developed him for about 10 months. And still had the love for it, the love for riding a nice horse, for going fast, developing, and helping them become the best they can, and of course trying to be the best rider that I can be, the best horseman. And so that's where I'm at right now. I feel like the bay horse that I just competed on at San Angelo, he's 8 years old now. I'm the one that seasoned him and got him prepared and ready, and I couldn't be more proud of where he's at. He walks in for me, he's focused, he wants to do it, he loves his job, and it brings me a lot of satisfaction, and that's really what drives me to go compete at these big races and be successful. Because without the horsepower, doesn't matter how good you are as a rider, you do need the horsepower, especially in the barrel racing.
What percentage do you think it is in barrel racing between the horse and the jockey?
I would say the horsepower is more important than the jockey. In the barrel racing, you can get by if we make a mistake, they pack us along, and they put up with a lot of our mistakes majority of the time. So the true percentage, I'm going to say 80%
really?
Horse. But if you don't have the balance and
sure.
The timing, that can be detrimental. So, and I think it depends on every combination. There's some horses that put up with more, and there's some riders that make a horse better. So it depends on the circumstances.
Why do you hear of horses that are better in the buildings and some of them are better outside? What's the difference?
That could be several things, but I really think it's related to their initial training. So I look at those 2 horses that I ride. The black horse, they were taught in a real big open pen, so kind of need a lot of room. And so when I take that black horse into a real small pen, he gets a little claustrophobic, and he's like, nope, I got to turn. I cannot run into the wall there. And that's kind of his personality. The bay horse, who was trained in the exact same pen, he's a little more willing. I can move him in a turn, and I can push him up towards a wall, and it doesn't bother him one bit. So part of it's probably training, part of it's probably the horse, and there's probably a level of confidence of what they see and how comfortable that horse is running at speed, because we're running 25 to 30 miles an hour in towards a wall, and
right.
They're smart enough saying, whoa, I can't, I'm not going to make that. Mm-hmm. So kind of their safety and their protection that they have. But that's a really good question, and I really think it would come down to just circumstances and the horse and the rider.
Right.
I would assume, but I don't know anything really about barrel racing, Jimbo, much.
That's with me too. But
I would assume the longer pens, the bigger pens, your longer strided horses could maybe do a little better, and then your more compact, small indoor pens, maybe a shorter strided horse can maybe do a little better, like, Sherry Serby won so much money on at the national final so many times. I don't know. That's just an outsider's perspective looking in. What do you think about that, Wenda?
Yeah, I've seen both, so it's hard to really pinpoint it down, but I do think your smaller pen horses are your little compact, more short-strided horses. They make these perfect, beautiful turns, so they make up all their time in those turns. They're not quite as fast between the barrels, and they have probably that advantage in a small pen to outrun kind of the race horses in the big pen. But these horses I ride, they're kind of a double-bred first down dash. They are a racehorse through and through, but they have so much rate and turn that I do find in a small pen, because they'll open up between the barrels, but they'll rate down and come smoke a turn as well. So now barrel racing has changed a little bit, and it kind of started with Dash to Fame. He was kind of the first racehorse that his colts were racehorses that were super fast between the barrels, but they came down and rated and turned, because historically, if you got on a racehorse to run barrels, they would run really fast, but they really didn't turn very good. So they'd get across the pen, and the girls would be pulling them across, and they barely make the turn, but they'd catch up that speed. They'd get that speed and kind of catch up, but the turns just weren't really pretty. Now, with kind of the Dash to Fame type horses, they can do both, and it's pretty efficient.
You got a couple unbelievable ones for sure.
Yes, they're
for sure. They don't fit in either one of the boxes, really, like the ones I was describing a while ago. There's some fire-breathing dragons right there, Jimbo. There's some.
I always thought it was amazing when you're coming down that alley or tunnel or whatever it is. They don't have very long to find that first barrel.
Yes, it's really, really short.
Can you tell when your horse has seen the barrel and you feel confident then, or?
Oh yeah, and you develop that hopefully long before you're ever there in a short pen like that. But that's one of the great things. If a horse will naturally, kind of like roping a steer, when your horse naturally looks and they go to their point and they're paying attention, ideally that's what we want in the barrels. The last thing I want to be doing is pulling their nose, hey, the barrel's over there, so as soon as they come out of that alley, you want them kind of looking and, oh, there's my spot, get to my spot. Right. And it makes for such not only the confidence between the rider and the horse making that run, but just more efficient turn, because they're going to their spot and going to crank the first.
Yeah. Well, it looks good when it all works.
Yep, absolutely. It's like a dance.
Like last week at San Angelo at 1409, that looked good.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. It's smooth, and it's like a dance, like any event that we're competing against the clock. When it just goes smooth and looks great, there's something to be said about it.
I want to go back to when you were talking about, you were a little girl talking about when you were riding bareback. you and your sister everywhere you went and putting the show sheen on your horse's back and making it real slick and trying to stay on, and I guess who could stay on the longest. Is that what it was?
Right. Not only the longest, but who could stick on there the best, and we'd push each other off, and we did all sorts of things. We would stand up on them to ride. Anything and everything. Just let your mind go wild. We did it.
I don't know if you're aware of this or not, Jimbo, but Wenda here is pretty famous for entering, I think, rather large barrel racings and not using a saddle. So how did all this come about, Wenda?
So, interestingly enough, when...
Bareback barrel racing, for everybody that's not following along with what I'm saying, she would run her horse with no saddle, and I think real large barrel races that paid a lot of money. And I don't know if she was doing it to cut weight or what, but we're fixing to find out right now. Sorry for cutting you off, Wenda, but I just wanted everyone to get that mental picture in their head of you riding bareback, no saddle, saddleless, no pad, nothing. Right?
No,
okay,
yeah,
all right.
Nothing.
We just want to get that all laid out there so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Well, how it came about, so I actually left Oklahoma City at the World Show and went down to a race in Waco. A big barrel race down there. The association was called the American West Barrel Racing Association at the time, and I had did an expo, so like a practice run before the race, and I did it bareback, which was no big deal to me. That's all we did we rode bareback. I could run barrels bareback. It was never a problem for me. So I did my expo, my practice bareback. Well, the owner of that association happened to see that, and he was so impressed and excited. He said, "Hey, I want you to run this event bareback." And I kind of, no, I don't know. And he said, "No." He said, "Now I respect somebody who can ride bareback. My dad didn't let me have a saddle until I could ride bareback, and I didn't earn my saddle till I was 16 years old." He said, "I think it helps people's balance, their horsemanship, and I really want to kind of promote this." Long story short, in Waco, I didn't end up running bareback, and he'd caught me later and said, "Why didn't you run bareback?" And I said, I just don't want people to say it's an advantage because of, the weight, cutting the weight. And he says, "I'll tell you this right now, it's not, if they think it's an advantage, then they can do it, number one." And he said, "It's, what I want to show is how important it is to be balanced with your horse." And he says, "If you ride bareback in any of the big races, so any regional race," he says, "I'll pay your entries." I said, "Okay, I can do that." So there was another race called Challenge of the Champions in Reno, Nevada, and he called up and said, "Hey, are you going to enter that?" And I said, "No, I don't think so. My mare was pretty good. The one I competed on, she was my high school rodeo, college rodeo horse, but I was about 3/10 off those lead horses, 3/10 to half a tenth, depending on kind of how well she did. So the entry fee was kind of a higher entry fee, and I thought it's not worth, they're only going to pay the top 6 or whatever. So I told him, no, I'm not planning on entering the Challenge of Champions. And he says, "I want you to run it in. I'll take care of the entry. I want you to run bareback." "Oh, okay, sure, yeah, I'll do that." So that was actually the first race that I competed bareback, and and they kind of talked it up and got everybody excited, and I went and made my run and carried a bat in my mouth, and just went and made my run, and it was fun and enjoyed it, and a lot of people came up and said, "Holy cow, I can't believe you were able to do that." And again, I mean, for me, it was not a big deal. It was like riding in a saddle. So I actually competed in the rest of that event, two other of the runs bareback as well. So I ran there bareback, and then I went to a couple different region finals, so like the Arizona region finals, and competed bareback. So it was kind of neat. And then after that, they started having those kind of bareback races a little more frequent. And one thing I did notice that what I felt like it maybe did was promote these little girls to kind of go ride bareback and kind of promote that horsemanship, balance, that type of thing. And so I kind of liked that. Well, hopefully I was a part of that to encourage these little girls to kind of find some balance and not just depend on their saddle to stay on.
That's the second champion that's been at this table, Jimbo, that's told us have your girls ride bareback.
I was thinking the same thing. Lynn Starr was telling us that just the other day, how much that helped her as a little girl riding bareback, she thought. And obviously it did, and you too.
Sure, absolutely.
And it wouldn't be like riding with a saddle for me, because I don't think I could do it at all. I'd hate to try to rope, bareback, breakaway or anything, it just wouldn't.
I'd like to get Wenda on one of these relay race teams that's going to be going on here in the next few weeks.
I did actually bump into a gentleman that came to check out the track, and he told me they were holding the relay race, and I was like, what? I want to come watch. And I happened to be on a horse bareback, and he says, hey, I'm actually looking for some more horses, but it really piqued my interest. We sprinted horses bareback all the time. It's been a while since I've probably sprinted one bareback, but it's I sprinted bareback, ran barrels bareback. It's second nature when you're doing it all the time.
How often would you place in a barrel race when you're running bareback?
So I only did about 6 or 7 runs bareback, and I think I placed in majority of them. The Challenge of Champions I still got outran. So that first time I ran bareback, I didn't place, but I was, competitive. I made a competitive fast run, just wasn't in the top 10. I think I was like 12th or something like that. But the other times, I did place in the 1D, in the top, whatever they placed through. So
it's unbelievable. How can people watch that on YouTube or something? Wenda, how can they find that?
I actually don't have it on YouTube. The Cowboy Channel has a copy, and they aired it, and I don't mind, sharing it. But yeah, it's actually just not out there. I don't have it posted anywhere.
Seems like I've seen some.
Actually,
some of you running bareback on YouTube or somewhere online somewhere. That's where I saw it, and it was unbelievable, Jimbo. So
no, it is on Facebook now. Actually, I take that back. So it's on my professional page, my
fan page.
Sister, the fan page. My younger sister manages it. It is on there. It's one of the first videos posted on there.
So you're not the only person in your family that's been pretty successful in the horse business.
Correct.
I don't know that much about your sister, but a lot of people do in this nation.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Absolutely. So my sister Wileen is quite the colt starter. She's great with a young horse. She can get a lot done in a really short amount of time. Can kind of build their confidence through pushing them through things, and that's her forte. So she's done really well. They have these Mustang makeover competitions. It was a lady that wanted to try to find an avenue for all these wild Mustangs that really didn't have a place to go. She started a program that these trainers would get them for 100 days, show them, have a competition, and then they'd sell them to the public. So instead of buying a $25 wild Mustang, you could at least go buy something that had 90 days training, 100 days training, and at least somewhat be safer for the average person that wanted to go save a Mustang. And so that really fit her program, riding her horse, riding a horse in a short amount of time and getting a lot done with them. she could do lead changes. She could do, anything and everything, circles, stops, lead changes, lay them down, whatever. It's definitely her forte. And she was, the first woman to ever win one, first person to win two. She really did well in that setting, and she's done some judging at these events now. But now she's a clinician, goes all around and helps people with their horses, gives lessons. But she also just competed in the Road to the Horse as a wild card to try to win a spot to be a competitor for the next year.
That's pretty prestigious right there.
What was it like to ride at the finals last year?
For me, so I don't get nervous. Nothing bothers me. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I find joy and enjoyment whether I'm at the play day like we were last week. I love that just as much as going and running at a big race. And so, I never once got, I don't get nervous. Doesn't bother me. Ultimately, all we're doing is going out and turning 3 barrels. So the quieter my mind is going to be, the better I'm going to be for my horse. And so I do think the mental side of competing is really important. Keeping everything focused, keeping your butterflies under control. And so ultimately, I enjoyed the experience. I know that it's quite the accolade and accomplishment, so I was grateful for that. And, I was, more than anything, I was excited it was in Texas. Right. I was like, wow, I'm going to be a part of, the finals. It's in Texas, hasn't been here since 1959. And so that really excited me. Also, those horses that I ride, they live 15 minutes from that facility, so it was really convenient. They stayed in their stall every night, and that I felt was a huge benefit for them to be so close to home. And we had great weather, and there was just a lot of good things. Minus the whole COVID issue that changed up. I think the whole feel of everything. Everybody was pretty quiet. Everybody kind of had to keep to themselves. We weren't supposed to even really go socialize. They really discouraged once we were checked in, and that we were COVID free. That they didn't want us out and about. And, like I never went to the trade show or anything like that. They canceled all the autographs. So I know it changed the dynamics of the finals, that maybe it was a big draw for a lot of people to say, I want to make the finals so I can go do this, and be that, and feel this. And so it had a different feel, I'm assuming, from how the previous years had been. But it was still a great accomplishment and an exciting thing. And I'm always up for anything. I mean, I'll go run wherever. So any chance I get to go have a good time and ride at a high level, then I definitely try to and enjoy it.
I'm curious, though, how you kept from getting nervous and not think about the money you were running for. Because if you could model that and sell it, that'd be worth a lot of money.
So I developed that at a really young age, fortunately. Luckily, my mom was a great coach. And taught us from a really young age how to kind of stay focused, but more than anything, she kind of taught us to enjoy it and go have fun. Hey, go do the best you can, go have fun. And so it might be partly my personality, maybe my lack of conviction in the competition pen, that I just that's not what drove me. So it didn't, whether I won or lost, it didn't really matter. Luckily my parents were supportive enough that win, lose, or draw, that it wasn't a big deal. And so I think that's where I developed kind of that mental toughness, or keeping the focus. But yeah, I can't even remember the last time I got nervous at a race. So.
Yeah, that's amazing, because you see the best cab ropers in the world, and they'll go in getting those go-arounds, those big high-dollar go-arounds at the American or the national finals. And they'll fumble their tie just trying to be so fast and going for that kind of money, So that's pretty special when you can just tune that out.
Yeah, and maybe my showing at the American last year, I was on a young horse. He was only 7. He really didn't have any rodeo experience, and so I just worked on. I use that. I feel like I use every race as an opportunity to continue to develop the horse. And so here I was getting him used to being by the bucking chutes and kind of just taking my time with him and making sure he was handling the noise. And I just went out and made a run, and he happened. I mean, it was the fast time of the barrels. Now I didn't finish up, and the next day I was a little slower, so I ended up 3rd last year, but I still used that opportunity just to kind of build his confidence, and I think that showed in the first run that I made. It was real smooth, it was easy, I wasn't tight, he wasn't tight. Now he got a little worried the second run I made on him. He got a little scared, somebody kind of cut him off. Right as I was going in, somebody walked in front of me, and it kind of scared him, and he backed off, and then he got worried, and he got a little tight, and I got a little tight, and you know what, and that all, our run wasn't as good. My second run wasn't as good because he was tight, I was tight, and that's the difference between winning and losing at that level, and probably really cost me. But I was on a 7-year-old, and he had to learn to kind of work through that. And but me mentally, I wasn't worried about, if he didn't go in. I've always looked at it too. If you can tell your mind what is the worst that's going to happen, because usually fear is a big driving factor of, I might not be good enough, I might lose all this money, whatever it is. But it usually is fear that controls us and gives us, I might not do good enough, or I might miss this, or I might do that. And I think I figured out a long time ago, what's the worst that's going to happen? You get run off with, or you catch a barrel, or you turn in front of a barrel. And you know what? Those things do happen. And the moment that you can figure out that, that can happen, but let's just go do our best. And as long as we're, like if I stay nice and soft and ride them to their point, the chance of that happening goes down significantly, versus if you're like, tight, something might happen, now we just ran up the fence, So I think as riders, we create a lot of those issues that happen. And so that's why that mental game and keeping our nerves calm and cool is so important. And I think it takes practice, and I think some people have an easier time at it than others. But if anything, if I ever help like a young kiddo or anything, that's the one thing that I really try to help them with, is being able to keep those nerves under control, go focus on what they need to do, and just really break down every aspect of the run. And if, because how many times have you ever talked to somebody that after they make a run or go rope a steer or whatever, that they don't remember what they did? They're just, I don't know. I don't even know how I did that. And I know in the barrel pen, that's pretty common for a lot of these young kids. And so if they can, I get them, so like first, hey, you're walking in the alley. Okay, now you're running to the first, okay, now we're turning the first, now we're running to the second. And if I can get them to break that run down, they kind of take a big deep breath and realize that they're just breaking down each aspect of the run. And I really want them to find the feel that when the run feels so slow to you, then that's really where you can start having some success. Like, the black horse that I run is so fast. But to me, I'm like, half the time, I'm like, that's all you got? Let's go faster. Like, to me, he feels slow, because I'm kind of riding with him, maybe just a little ahead of him. And so that's why I really try to push these younger kids to kind of break it down, take that deep breath, and focus on each aspect. And I think that's where success can come after that.
I think that's some great advice right there. A lot of ropers, they told you to take a deep breath, but they didn't ever explain why to take that deep breath and to focus a lot of times. Guys like your granddad, they took it for granted, Jimbo, what they were doing, and they didn't put it into words like Wenda here, a lot of the old guys that I knew. Right.
Well, and too, when we're a little calmer, it does help that horse. I mean, you think about, as soon as you get a hold of a horse, they're like, oh, whoa, what do you need me to do? And so if you can kind of stay calm, I mean, even if you have to have contact to their mouth, but it's just more of just like, hey, okay, get ready, we're going to do this, versus kind of snatching one, even that alone, just that little bit of a change and taking it a little more in stride makes a big difference, even for your horse's mental preparedness for the run itself. And I'm not a roper, so and rope horses are a lot more mentally sound than most barrel horses, but I know that definitely helps the barrel horses just so that they can stay a little quieter and focused, and it can go a long ways.
Last year at the finals, I remember partway through something happened. What all went on last year at the national finals on your horses? So
the black horse was out. I couldn't use him. I ran the bay horse the first 4 rounds, but I actually hung a leg on him the first night. So he got a little sore. He wasn't lame or anything, but kind of sore where he just didn't want to get in the ground and turn. And part of the ground, now every barrel racer probably complains about this, but the ground was pretty sticky, sometimes too wet. So a lot of great horses this last finals did kind of struggle with the ground. They weren't really wanting to get into the ground, and the bay horse included. And so I finally, after the 4th round, switched over to a horse I borrowed. It was a 7-year-old stud, SR Industry Titan, who kind of like a week before I lined it up, so I'd never rode him. I got him a couple days before the finals, but they hadn't competed on him since September. He needed shoes. I mean, he was long and he was out of shape, and I would have probably got on him sooner, but he was literally just out of shape. And so I kind of, I thought, well, I better leg him up a little bit more before I go run him. So, other than the one practice, the one morning, I hadn't taken him through the barrels. So really my first run on him was literally the first time I ever went and made a competitive run. The guy that trains him, his name's Troy Crumrine. He trained him, rode him, did really well on him in the futurity and derby world. And, here he's 5'9" and 180 pounds or whatever, a little stronger. And he told me, he says, I asked him, what do I need to do for this horse? He says, you can ride him however you want. You can bend him, you can keep him straight. He'll listen. Well, he just rode him a little junior cow horse. I mean, nothing, a little bit. And so he says, I kind of hold him and let him run through my hand a little. So I think that was my only mistake, because I hadn't competed on him. When I came into my third, I knew he wanted to really turn that third. And so I didn't quite keep him picked up enough to get around third. So I changed my bit. And then I was able to get around him the next 3 nights, placed twice on him. And for never riding him, I was just so pleased with him. He listened. He was quiet as can be. I mean, he handled all that pressure. He looked like a rope horse out there, just trotting around, just gentle and easy to get along with. And so luckily I was able to use Titan, the stud. And it gave, we had to go take Mac to the vet. He got in, he had his SI injected and was pretty sore. But it gave him those days off. Then it came back, and I was second in the 9th round, and I think I would have been third in the last round, but caught a barrel. So, not necessarily the finals I was hoping for, but. And the black horse was out, and that horse is unbelievably fast. If I were to run him, that would have been a good pin to run him in. He doesn't do real good in the smaller pins, so I was hoping I could have used him, but I got in a wreck on him in Lawton, at the rodeo in Lawton, and he chipped his knee. So. He's still on, stall rest. They're just barely starting to kind of exercise him, so we'll see if he comes back or not. But that was kind of my finals experience, and that's kind of how rodeo goes, and that's the way I looked at it. Yeah, we didn't place tonight. Oh well, let's move on to the next. And I just tried to focus on what needed to be done, and it turned around a little bit for me. And if we go back this next year, we'll try to go get him this time.
Where's the finals going to be this year? What's your best guess?
I really do think it's going to be back in Vegas. They have the 5-year contract left,
right.
So they'll be obligated, as long as the state's opened up, then they'll be obligated to go back and finish that contract. So I kind of have a feeling that it is going to be in Vegas. Reno, they're saying they're going to have Reno 100% open, and that's in Nevada. So surely by December, things will be open enough in Vegas that they'll actually have it there.
I saw some of the California rodeos kicking off, so that's a positive sign for the rodeos for sure.
For sure.
Well, that's something else. To get on a horse, you've never even ran anywhere, or he hadn't hardly ran anywhere, to speak of.
To beat the best in the world, at the finals of all places, that is pretty amazing.
The national finals won $50,000 on him.
Right.
That's quite the story. I don't think anybody, they would have been searching everywhere to horses, been there, done that, I'm sure, instead of getting on one that's never ran in that kind of environment before. So,
well, that might go back to my experience as a child growing up. My mom put us on all sorts of horses. I mean, we rode anything and everything, and we fixed a lot of horses. So, getting on the horses that we have now in the barrel world, they're like so easy to ride compared to what I rode growing up. Most of them were runaways or gate sour. We got a lot of free horses that people had either ruined or couldn't ride, and that's what we rode. And horses that had problems, and that's where I kind of gained some of my skill and maybe my timing that works for me. But so for me to jump on something is no big deal. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Half the time I'm like, this is the easiest horse I've ever rode, compared to getting run off with. And I got ran away with so much as all through, high school and all that. That I'm pretty comfortable on a horse wide open, and so I that's maybe where my mentality came of, well, what's the worst that can happen? They're going to run off with you, and one time that actually the mare that I high school rode and college rodeoed on, she was quite the runaway, and one time I think my chin strap broke or something. I don't know. Something happened, and I was running poles on her, and I think I was trying to hack on her, and that chin strap broke, and this mare took off with me, and I was in this real big arena. And she made, 4, 5, 6 laps, and I just let her. I was like, well, nothing I can do. I just almost queen waved. I thought, here we go. Might as well just do a little queen wave while we're running off. And luckily my sister, Wileen, was there, and she was on the fence, and as that mare kind of was running by, she grabbed a hold of her and got her stopped, and because she was not stopping for me. And so, I got pretty used to those kind of horses, and so to jump on another horse, and I knew that stud was really, really nice, competitive, ran at a high level, so I was pretty confident, and especially when the guy that trained him said, oh yeah, he'll do, you can do whatever you want. You want to pick him up and curl him around, or you want to run him straight, and I said, okay, sounds good, let's do it.
It's a lot of confidence in yourself too, to think that you can just get on this horse you've never ridden before.
Right.
At the National Finals Rodeo.
Finals.
That's a lot of confidence in yourself.
Yes.
She's got ice water in the veins.
I think so.
She's going to have to bottle that.
When you don't get nervous at the National Finals, that's ice water in your veins.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Well, really, I'm just having a good time. Ultimately, I just feel blessed that I get to ride great horses, go fast, and, enjoy the experience. And I feel blessed enough that I realize that people try their whole lives to do this, and here I am getting to do it. And so I just kind of have a lot of gratitude involved with it, and am grateful for each step. And you know what? I know by tomorrow it could change. Who knows? They can get hurt, they can do whatever, and then it's gone that quick. And so just try to enjoy each moment. And, I've gained a lot of friendships through it, and gotten to know, all these girls at the pro level, and I'm the futurity world, and it's just been really nice. And so I just try to remember that, I'm healthy and blessed. I got a great family that's supportive, and just enjoying what I love to do, which is ride.
When you're on the road, do you have any traveling partners?
No. So so I don't go a lot. I typically keep it, I try to only go once a month, twice a month at the most. So I don't go a lot. The horses are down in Fort Worth, and so the owners will usually meet me at a race, or I'll go down there, jump in with them, and then go. But I haven't really traveled that much. Last year, the only trip I made was I went to only one rodeo over the 4th, hit Prescott, but the real reason I was going out was for a big barrel race. So went out to the big barrel race in Utah, did really well there, won that, and then went down to Prescott, just hit the one rodeo over the 4th, broke the arena record, won Prescott, and then came home. And so really, I've only made a couple trips like that. I haven't went anywhere further than that. And I did go to Kansas last year, but not too far. Went up to Dodge and Phillipsburg, and that's about it. So I really haven't made that many big long trips. Now I am thinking about going to Reno, so that'll be the furthest that I've taken these horses.
Those other girls probably hope you don't go to a lot of rodeos.
Out of the 24 rodeos you went to last year to make the national finals, how many of those rodeos did you place in? You've had to herd this.
I think most of them. There was a couple. Lawton, I got in that wreck. I didn't place there. I caught a barrel at one or two of them to place or win. But most of them, now I didn't have any luck at Dodge.
She remembers all the ones she didn't win at.
Right. Well, it's
Yeah.
easier to remember the ones she didn't do any good at than the ones she did.
And I think that's kind of it. We had 2 goes at Dodge, so I rode both the first horse, and he slipped pretty bad and got pretty sore. And then I rode the second horse, and he slipped, so no luck there. But everywhere else, because I hit Phillipsburg place there. I mean, we about placed everywhere we ran at.
That's what you went for, the place, wasn't it?
Yeah. And they're, I'm grateful because I'm mounted. I mean, these are high level, great horses, and have the ability to go win it, if not place.
The thing about these, Jimbo, is last year with COVID and everything, there wasn't that many rodeos to go to. I think the next one closest to her, she went to 82 rodeos and she went to 24, Wenda here. But everywhere she went, it was the top 15. It wasn't like she could go off to somewhere where the top 15 aren't that week. Right. So
sure,
that's pretty darn high winning percentages against the best in the world every time you pull up somewhere, Jimbo. It's some of the highest winning percentages I've ever heard.
It sure is.
You're going to have to do some of your rodeo historian on that and come to find out, see where she ranks on the winning percentages for a year. I think it's I think it's an unbelievable
just
percentage.
Going to 2 rodeos at this late in the season. Here it is, the 1st of May, and sitting 3rd in the world is proof right there.
It's all the proof in the pudding right there.
Proof in the pudding.
Well, and I think you're right, Cody, because last year was such a unique year and everything was canceled. The entry numbers at each rodeo were pretty much double because they were just willing and trying to go to what they could go to, and I kind of felt bad for them last year. Everybody was dragging, and nothing made sense. Like usually you could kind of go to an area and go hit 3, 4, 5 rodeos, and then kind of make a circle. Not last year. They were going up to Idaho, and then to Wyoming, and then back to California. No, it wasn't California, but they were just back and forth and dragging all over the place. So it was just such a tough year for everybody really going down the road. And I hadn't initially maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but I didn't have the NFR as a goal originally. That, actually I just wanted to make top 40 so I'd be eligible to go to Fort Worth, because these folks that own these horses, that's where it kind of all started for them. They went to Fort Worth, saw these horses run barrels, and they're like, our horse could do that. And so they finally, we just want our horse at Fort Worth. And I says, well, I guess I better get my card, okay, I'll go to Fort Worth if you want. And so I got my card, and then that was the year that they actually limited Fort Worth. So I hadn't been to any rodeos, so I couldn't go to Fort Worth. So then I said, this last year, I said, well, we'll go to enough, make top 40, and then be eligible for Fort Worth and some of those winter rodeos. And I had went to kind of the same as this year. I went to San Angelo and San Antonio and did well at both, and then COVID hit. And so then when May, June rolls around and they kind of opened everything back up and started having rodeos again, I was sitting in top 15. So I thought, well, maybe I ought to go to a few more since I'm in the top 15. So really it was just a unique situation, and it kind of turned into, we might as well go to a few more and stick in the top 15 and see if we can go run at the NFR. And so it was probably good for me to kind of push me to get me to go travel a little bit more than I usually do. Like I said, I really try to keep it once a month. That's kind of perfect for me. I feel like I do a little part-time of everything. I, of course I have my family. We've got 2 little girls, and but I work part-time, and then run barrels part-time, and I kind of part-time this, part-time that, and go help my husband on the ranch and help the guys. And so that's nice. So I don't want to be gone a whole bunch, and it just happened to work out pretty well that I only made a couple circles last year to go hit some pro rodeos, and it just worked out, and it was kind of a great experience.
Well, it looks like you're well on your way to another great experience, maybe.
Well, hope so. I mean, the thing with rodeo is you don't know unless you go.
Right.
So, now I feel like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to go hit a few. And I happened to call right prior to San Angelo what the actual rodeo count was going to be for this year. Last year they had dropped it to 10 because of COVID. And so I found out in February they had announced that it is going to be 10 again this year. And I thought, okay, good. Okay, 10, that's perfect, because historically it's always 25. And so me making it in on 24 last year, I think, is kind of the record low. It's never happened before, because you actually had to go to 25 to be eligible to even run at the NFR. So, but this year again will be only 10 for the requirement. So, so I thought, I can hit 10 this year. so we'll see. I'll just go do the best I can. And I'm down a horse. I have just Mac right now, so I'm going to be really careful about where I run and make sure the ground's good. They have a young horse that's did pretty good in the futurity world, but he doesn't have any rodeo experience, so I might potentially be able to ride him.
Where's the black stud? Is he in the bullpen?
The black horse is. He has that chip knee, and they're just starting to exercise him. The stud that I borrowed at the NFR. They said I could use him anytime, so I could call him and say, hey, I need him at Reno, or I need him here. And they said, you call me and he will be there. Yeah. So they were very kind, very helpful, and I was grateful for them. And that's a nice horse. Yep. He's level-headed and easy to get along with. I was blown away with him, let alone, just a horse, but for being a stud, even better. So I was really impressed with him.
What's a barrel horse like that go for now, Wenda?
Oh my goodness! If
you can put a price on them.
So they'll, you're looking at a minimum. Every horse there that ran at the NFR, they're at least a minimum of $250,000. I mean, you just straight across the board say these are at least $250,000 horses. And, really a horse is worth what somebody's going to pay for them. Some of those barrel horses have went for way more, some for less. It depends. One, they got to be sound, so they got a vet. But, I've heard some of them going anywhere from $300,000 to $600,000. I mean, it just depends. It depends on the horse, how consistent they are, how easy they are to get along with, their age. I mean, there's a lot of factors. How much money they've won. You take if you're familiar with like Haley Kinsel, she's done unbelievably well. She had great finals. That mare, I have no idea how much she's worth, but she is worth a lot of money. She's won. That'd be interesting to know how much she's won. She's won a pile of money on her. She's won the American, however many times. She's had great showings at the NFR. That mare is definitely worth some money. And even if they never sell her, they can sell their eggs. That's a big thing as well. So they sell the mare's eggs, and who knows how much somebody be willing to pay for just an egg to get a foal from that mare.
She is unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah. What did the go-arounds pay at the finals first?
I think $26,000, just over $26,000. And it was, initially, they didn't think they were going to have that much money, but because they could sell tickets, they were able to get the normal payout, and which was an added benefit for sure.
Well, I was at the first national finals, girls barrel racing. I was only 3 years old, don't remember it. But Jane Mayo won the average, placed in all 4 rounds, 2 firsts, a second, and split third and fourth, and she won $663. So,
barrel racing's come a long ways.
I'd say so.
Tell her about the ground up there, Jimbo, at that first.
Well, it come a blue northern that night, and just turned extremely cold and got down in the teens, and the wind was blowing 30 mile an hour. It was sleeting the next morning, snowing, the ground was froze. And it was just unbelievable conditions that they ran in. And the next year they moved it to Scottsdale, Arizona. They'd had enough of that.
Yes. That was a smart move.
Right.
Yeah, I can't even imagine those conditions. And the horses back then were so tough.
It had to be.
I think now we've kind of bred that out of them a little bit. They step on one little stone and they're like, oh, I can't do anything. Especially I think because horses have become so specialized now, each event they kind of bred for their own bloodlines that they like. But man, back then the horses were just tough.
Yeah. Well, my dad ran the chute for the team roping and the steer roping, and he went and sat in the car during the barrel racing just trying to warm up because he was about to freeze to death. But they had a big fire built right there by the chute in the heading box. You know, that's how cold it was.
Ooh.
And Joe said you could leave any water in the barn. They had a good barn, but if you left any water in your bucket, it'd be froze solid.
Wow.
So that was how the first finals went.
Wow.
Well, it's came a long way since then.
Yeah, I guess so.
They have it in the middle of December now, but it's not.
It's covered, isn't it?
It's covered. It's heated in there. Ground's not frozen.
Right. And it's for a lot more money than $663.
Yeah, and rodeos come such a long ways.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable that, you know, really how fortunate we are to get to do, kind of keep the lifestyle we love and keep the Western heritage alive and go kind of promote what cowboys really are, you know, and it's pretty neat. And now it's just great that the time that and money that they invest that they can actually recoup, and that says a lot.
And that's made the price of horses go way up too, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, she was on TV the other night, and the whole nation saw her. Everybody with that channel that wanted to watch the channel that night, you know, they saw Wenda take that money home from San Angelo.
Yeah, and then it was on Facebook, shared all over the country.
All over the world.
I forget how many views was on that, but it was 14 or I don't know. I'd hate to say, but it was several thousand views on that run.
Huge amount of views on that run.
It was unreal.
Do you ever think about that? How many girls were in their living room or backyard or arena and they're pretending to be you? Do you ever think about that, Wenda?
Not really. And that's my younger sister was like, you have to have a Facebook page, and I'm not a big social media fan, and and I'm not going to train horses. I don't want to do that full time. I don't want to take any outside horses. So I don't want to do it from a business standpoint. So it's really never interested me to kind of put myself out there, because usually that's you want to make a business of it and sell horses and that type of thing. So you put yourself out there. And my younger sister had said that. She said, you know what, people are watching you and they want to be like you or better themselves to accomplish what you're accomplishing right now. They want to be a part of your story, she said. So, this is why you need it. And so I said, well, yeah, I guess if you'll manage it and take care of it, sure, do whatever. But I think you are right, Cody. I'd never really thought about that. But hopefully anybody watching me, when they do watch that they can say, well, yeah, look, she rides real quiet. She's not just so aggressive and just whipping the tar out of that horse or whatever. And that's what I really work towards, is just staying nice and quiet and letting that horse work underneath me. And the thing is, they know their job. We're just an inhibitor half the time. And when you have a horse that is kind of that finished and they know exactly where they need to be, it's pretty as a picture and smooth as silk, and that's the goal, to help it look that way, and hopefully I inspire some of these young gals to look and say, oh, you know what, I can do that, or I can teach my horse to do that, or you know what, riding bareback, sure, I want to improve my balance and not pull on my horse's mouth to balance. And they just recently did a little bareback race here in town, and I was out of town, so I missed it. But prior to, I told the gal putting it on, I says, let me do a little bareback instructional video, sometimes those little pointers make a big difference. And so we made a little video about just kind of safety while riding bareback, and then different techniques so that you're not pulling on the horse's mouth. That's usually most people's mistake when they're riding bareback. They're balancing on the reins instead of using their body to balance and working on their core strength. And so hopefully that touched a few people and they learned a few tricks and can find themselves being in some success and can progress.
Where can people see that video at that you made?
I think she shared it on Facebook. It's on YouTube, actually, so I think I put it under instructional video of riding without a saddle or something like that. I should probably know those details, but...
we'll try to stick it on there at the end of the video for everybody to see. They can check it out themselves. Well, Jimbo, you got anything else for Wenda today?
Well, I'd just like to thank her for coming in and putting up with us tonight. But, Cody, we all watched the national finals last December, and it was on RFD, Cowboy Channel Plus, and it was streaming. I never did hear what the numbers were, but it had to be unreal because people hadn't got to see much rodeo, and they were wanting something to watch, So I know the numbers were big. And every night for 10 nights, we heard Wenda Johnson, Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Tyler Milligan, Pawhuska, Oklahoma. That was pretty cool. And I think they'll keep Pawhuska on the rodeo map for a long time, I hope.
I hope so. It was sure a pleasure to represent Pawhuska, and especially the history that's involved and the rodeo history. This is just such a great area, and I'm so grateful that we live here. And we've been here just over 3 years, and I love being here. This is a great area. It's got a lot of great people and a lot of culture, and so I definitely was proud to represent Pawhuska, and was hopeful to make this town proud.
Well, I think you did.
Thank you.
Not only you made us proud, you made the whole state of Oklahoma proud, Wenda, and we're still really proud of you. Number 3 in the world, local girl, Pawhuska girl right now. We're all walking around with our chest boat out for you right around here, Wenda. We're all very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
And all your accomplishments, we're proud of you, and the way you live life and the kind of person you are makes everybody very, very proud of you. And I can see lots of little girls out there wanting to be a Wenda Johnson. All right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I can sure see it, and I wouldn't mind if you're a role model for my little girls, because you're one of the best I've ever seen. If you want to find out more about Wenda right here, we got a great little display to her right here at the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum. She's one of the best horse jockeys in the world, period, bar none. National finalist, rodeo, barrel racer, sitting 3rd in the world right now. And let's bring that gold buckle home to Pawhuska this year, Wenda. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I will do my best. That's what it comes down to. Just do my best and
go to 35 rodeos and just do it. Bar none. She'll get it done in 35. 35 rodeos for Wenda this year, Jimbo.
I believe that'll get it done.
All right. Hey, we'll see everybody next week from right here in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. This has been Cowboys of the Osage with Cody and Jimbo and Wenda today. See everybody next week.